Hi everyone, it's Linda from LyndaCreates, and I have an unusual project this week. It is a project that I did while on my camping vacation. So I'm back home now filming this part, but once you see the video you'll understand. There were a lot of challenges, and I had to do some voiceovers because of those challenges. But I think the project turned out really nicely. It is using these stamps from iCrafter that I designed, Positively Plants, and it is using the pegboard shelfie die. I actually used the die on this project for the pegboard in the background. So it's kind of nice to show that you can use dies with your Stitch Your Stamps. So I guess it's Stitch Your Dies as well. This project is not finished yet because I wanted to do some more stitching to it, but I have run out of time, so that's what you're seeing right now. But again, I'm so happy with the way it turned out. Look at all the fun stitching, especially this basket down here and that basket there. So I love the way they turned out. So bear with me and check out how I made this. And when you hear the sound go off and or a voiceover, you'll know that either A, the wind had kicked up, or an airplane went over, or the campers in the next campground, the kids started screaming. So enjoy. Check it out. In starting this project, I have about a 10 3/4 inch square of a softer cotton. It's like a dish towel cotton fabric. And then I have a piece of the upholstery, thrifted upholstery fabric that is 6.5 inches square. So I have that. And then I have a piece of this cream colored cotton that I just recently thrifted. I die cut it with the pegboard shelfie die, and it really was simple. It took about 3 or 4 passes. I just want to make sure all these little holes got cut. You can see all the holes in there. I wanted to make sure those got cut, so it actually went through very easily. I have it pinned down now. I have everything centered, and I wanted to start off. Let me show you first off a picture of this. It is like a pegboard, a wooden pegboard with plants on it. Before I start stitching all the background down, I wanted to put the shelves in, and I have an idea where I want the shelves, but I wanted a thin ribbon in a whitish color. So I have this ribbon, which is the right size to do as a shelf, but I didn't like that black line in it, and I'm going to remove that black strip in the middle there, and it does come out. Okay, then there's another peg right there. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And as you're sewing along, you want to add the pegs that are holding it up. And I'm doing just a 3-wrap French knot in the hole underneath it. Okay. So there you have the bottom shelf. So there are 3 shelves done. I'm going to take it out of the hoop and move it down right now, but just wanted to show you, and you could see the little French knots that are the pegs that hold it in, or at least theoretically hold the shelves in place. Now that I've finished the shelves, what I could do is take this off the hoop and do my stamping. And I am going to stamp. Well, I'm going to hold this all down again, but I'm going to stamp the succulents I'm using the Positively Plant stamp that I designed for iCrafter, and it has all these fun plants and these various pots. So I'm going to stamp it on here on the shelves, and then I will stitch them. Okay, so I'm using Ranger's Archival ink in jet black. I have my stamps, and there's all these little ones, and so I have a smaller stamp block, and I kind of have an idea, again, because I designed this, I kind of know sizes and shapes. So I have a piece of scratch paper over here so I don't get the ink too close to the fabric, but I have an idea of where I'm going to stamp these. So I'm just going to go for it. Okay. And I know you usually ink the stamp rather than stamp the ink, but I'm doing it this way. Okay, pull that off. Okay, now just to explain too real quickly, I designed these stamps to look like linoleum block carving. Now whether they do or don't, I don't know, but that's what they were designed for. So that's why they have sometimes some little lines on the side. I'm going to do the plants next. I'm a sucker for monstera leaves. So that's a lot of stamping there, which only means a lot of fun stitching. I think though, better make sure the fabric stays still, doesn't move around. I'll add more stitching around the edges when I get to that point. But for right now, let's just hold everything in place. And I am going to make sure my hands aren't dirty. I'm going to do some stitching. Okay, so this is where I'm going to stop for now. I'm going to finish this while I'm on my RV trip. It'll give me something very, very relaxing to do while I'm sitting out in the RV. And it might be a cold week, so yeah, it might be some chilly stitching. So just wanted to get it to this point so now I can sit and just stitch. Oh, there's one more thing I realized I could do while I'm still home, is I can put it into the stretcher bars or onto the frame that I'm going to stitch. Now again, I cut it to fit. Okay, so this is what I'm going to try. I have some white, some fairly thick thread. I don't know what you would call it. It's like a pearl cotton, but I don't think it is. With a scrap that I had. And I'm going to try stretching it with thread first. And what I'm basically doing is, or I could see through it where the light is, so I could kind of tell. I kind of have an idea where I'm going. Oh, Oh, this may not be the right way at all. Let's take a look at this. But I have it tacked in place so it's square on there. And I have my staple gun ready to go. So I'm going to staple the fabric down in place and then remove these threads. Let's do it. That's the majority of that. Now, I saw someone explain a better way to cut the corners. I thought it was brilliant, so I'm going to try it. Okay. So I'm set up to start stitching outside here, and I don't know if you could tell in the bottom right corner there, those leaves, because I designed this stamp, I know that I designed those to be jade plants, so I'm doing it in a jade plant kind of green, and I'm doing some lazy daisy stitches for the leaves, and I just started stitching. So I'm enjoying a little morning stitching at our campsite. It was getting a little chilly, so I moved to a sunnier spot. Of course, this is Southern California, so when I say chilly, it is like maybe in the 60s, probably in the 60s. So I do want to say that the stretching of this background fabric on the stretcher bars did not go as planned. It's not as taut as I would like it. And because I'm here camping, I can't exactly take those staples out and redo it. So I am making do with what I can. So this is not the way you're supposed to stitch it, but you should try to make it as tight as possible. But I'm just making do. So I finished that jade plant. I have another one up here. So while I have this color on my needle, I'm just going to finish or do these up there. The wind picked up around this time, so it got fairly noisy, so I'm going to go inside and finish stitching some more. So I'm starting in on this zebra cactus plant, and I'm using a thicker thread, and I'm using 3 strands of it. I'm going back and forth 3 times. I'm coming out of the same hole and going into the same hole, so they'll come to a point. And I'm trying to keep it a little loose so it has room to give along the sides. And then I will go back in. But right now I want to do the verticals on each of these leaves and just fill those in. So now that I have all the white verticals, I'm coming in with DMC 895, a very dark green, and I'm going to start doing the horizontal stripes on each individual leaf. And I'm just coming up on one side and going down the other, and it's 6 strands of the floss, and I'm doing two stitches and adding a space and adding 2 stitches. As I get closer to the points, I'll probably do 1 stitch. And here I'm just showing how I found a way to separate each leaf. And the thing is, this stitch also holds down those white threads in place and adds a little curve to it as well. So you can see how they're finishing off. I'm getting to this far left leaf, and it had a lot more curve, and that's why I did the white threads very loose so they could have a lot of curve. And it's the green floss that is going to hold it and shape it into the curve that I want. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do 2 horizontal stitches in the dark green and shape that curve to the way I want it. So I'm just going to go around, and it works really well this way. New morning, new stitching, bright beautiful sunshine. So I just wanted to show what I've been working on. I did some straight stitching around the edges here to hold everything in place there, and I did some leaves right here, finished those leaves off, and I'm just moving along. Working on these leaves, I used a fly stitch, and I just want to apologize right now. I know this surface is supposed to be very smooth and tight, but I'm camping. I don't have all the equipment to change it, so it is what it is. We'll make do. So the best way to describe a fly stitch is it ends up looking like the letter Y. So you go across and you come back up in the middle a little lower than where you went across, and you catch the thread and then you pull it downwards. I'm seriously roughing it here, so it's kind of hard to show. So I'm coming across there, the 2 leaves that stick out. I'll come up again in the center, so you keep doing these Y stitches as you work your way down the stem, and they end up looking like leaves on a stem. Pretty cool. So I hope you can see that. That's this one all done. So I'm going to do this leaf next, and since it's separated into different sections, I'm going to do each section with the satin stitch, but going in a different direction to add the variety that I need. I might go find a shadier spot to continue stitching this. I don't know why the picture's so fuzzy, but I just wanted to stop a moment and share what it looks like where I'm sitting and stitching. First off, if you go upwards from this, my stitching, you see my dog resting right there at my feet. Isn't she cute? And then if you go straight up a little bit more, this is the open field next to our campground. Cool. When I'm finished with that, I'm going to add some stitches for the little flowers, but this is the only leaf that I have left to go, and then it'll be all the pots. Okay. So I'm trying something a little different with the Monstera leaves. I'm going to do satin stitching, but I'm going to have it all radiate from the point where the stem attaches rather than straight down. So you could see instead of straight up and down, I'm going to go at an angle like this, and hopefully it works, as well as I will leave the gaps where the leaves are open. So let's see if that works out. Okay, so I finished 2 of the leaves up here. I have 2 more little folded leaves, and that will be it for the leaves, and then I will have to figure out what color I want the planters. Well, I'm trying to find some colors for the pottery. So I pulled out a few more neutral colors. I'm thinking I might do the pot something like this. We'll see how they look. So I started stitching some of the pots, and I did this one as horizontal lines. And then here's another one, the same pot, so I might do it the same. And then this one I did vertical stitches and then wove back through to create a basket look, which I think what I'll do is I will repeat it down here, and I'll show you how I did this. So there's a few other pots. That one I may add the triangles afterwards. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. And there's still a few other variations. On this pot, I'm going to start with some horizontal stitches, and then I will come back in between and do vertical stitches in a different color to look like a clay pot that has different glaze. So I'm going to show you how I did this basket weave stitch like this one. I love the way this turned out. So first what I started with is a single vertical stitch in the middle, and I held down. The best way to do this is to hold your thread straight up and down so you can see where the vertical is, and then put your needle, insert your needle at right in line with where you held your thread. And so I'm going to do all the vertical stitches on the left side first, and then I'll come back and do all the verticals on the right hand side. I have all of the vertical stitches done now, and I did an odd number of stitches. You want to make sure they're odd number. So when you're at the one side at the end of it, turn your needle around so you have the blunt end, the eye of the needle, so it doesn't catch on the threads. And then you want to start weaving it. So you go over the first one and then under the second one, and you just keep working your way across. And it's a rather slow process because you want to make sure that you catch everything. But if you do it carefully and you come down from the top just slightly, you can see where the threads, individual threads are. And you just want to keep working your way ever so slowly. So as you're getting close to the end, the opposite end, you want to make sure that you catch that last stitch, vertical stitch, and you want to go back with the back end of the needle and maybe tuck up the horizontal stitch up just a little bit so it's straighter. And then once it's straight, go down into the fabric with the needle so it'll hold that first row across. It'll hold it straight. You tuck it in, and then you come back up just below it to start your next horizontal row cross. So you bring it up, and again with the back side of the needle, now you have to turn it upside down. It's a little easier this way. And if you make sure that you're doing the opposite stitch, so if the last one wasn't over, you want to go under it and just start working your way back across every other stitch. And you can see up here I did 2 rows across, but on this bottom one, I think I'll do 3, and I'll see how that looks, and if I like it better, I'll go add one more row on the top pink one. So just keep weaving it across. And now as you get to the end of the second row, you want to turn it around, but also push everything up again so it's straight. Just tuck it up a little bit. And then you want to go back down into the fabric to hold it up in place. And then come back up just below it and start your third row. Turns it into a neat looking basket. And then I'll have to add the feet down here. Turn the stitch down and hold it in place. Oh, I like the way that turned out. Take a look at that. Isn't that pretty? Just a little weaving. I'm going to do this pot as 2 shades of light gray. And the other thing, I'm doing the pots more as like a flat satin stitch because I wanted the leaves to be the detailed and the textures happening, and the pots are supposed to be more of the plain, almost ceramic, or in one case basket weave kind of look. So like I always say, it's really nice because the different types of stitches that you use can also change the way an item looks. Well, the sun is now creeping around the front of the RV, so it's hitting my artwork. So I'm going to work on this pot next, and I think I already said I'm going to do a medium gray and the pink, because I wanted to bring this pink color somewhere else. So I have the lighter pink to bring in some more pink from up there, and I did those in horizontal stitches, and I'm going to do the top part in vertical stitches for variety. So for this pot, I'm using the lighter shade to do the bowl, and then I'm going to use the darker or the medium gray to do the top of it and to do the legs. It's a very mid-century modern looking planter. On this planter, the top part in the stamp has a pattern in the actual stamp. So what I'm going to do is go sideways, and I'm going to repeat that pattern but as a chain stitch, just to add a little variety in there, because the chain stitch gives a pattern that's similar to what is on the stamp. And I'm just going to do 4 chain stitches across. So I'm bringing my needle back up in the same hole that I had started with. I'm taking my floss and wrapping it above the needle and gently pulling it. So now I've caught the thread around it with the chain stitch with the loop, and I will come up again and catch the floss at the top. That will be the first chain. And I'll go back down into the same hole again and do a loop around again, pull it across the top, and then go down in the same hole that I came up in. Make sure the floss goes around the top. Once you finish that row and you're ready to start the second row, you have a choice. You can move down and go from the right side to the left, or you can move it along from the back and go from the left to the right and start on the left side again. So it's really up to you. I'm going from the left to right again because that's the way the stamp pattern kind of looked like, but you don't have to do it that way. You can go either direction. And so again, I'm wrapping the floss above it and bringing the needle back up. And I'm sorry you can't see it. It really roughing it here, but I'm bringing the needle back up and I'm catching it, and I'm going to do it the same length as the previous row. I also wanted to show you that on this planter, it has these 3 legs, vertical legs. So the dark gray that I used across the top, you can also use that to make the legs, and they're just 3 straight lines coming down. Change of plans. I decided on this last one because it's so similar to this one, and I didn't want to do the same, just stitches straight across. I'm doing them at an angle. I'm going to do half of it in this lighter gray shade, and then the other half I'm going to bring in the yellow again, and just see how that works. So that's it for that half of the color. Let me change over to the yellow. I'm finishing off the last stitches. On this pot. I decided to do this greenish gray, vertical up here, horizontal and off-white, and then horizontal again at the base of it. So it's a little bit different than this one, kind of reverse of what the vertical and the horizontal. So I'm just finishing it off, and that will be the last of the pottery that I have to do. And it's just those flowers, and I'm going to do something a little different with them. So the last thing I'm doing is adding seed beads to the flowers, and I'm using a really narrow needle and 1 strand of floss, and I'm just stitching down these little seed beads as the flowers. And the only thing I need to do is to add some stitching around the edge of the pegboard to hold that down, which I should have done at the beginning. And I also want to stitch around this outer border in maybe a prettier stitch, and I should have done that at the beginning as well. The other thing too I want to say is this background fabric, the very outer one, is actually a vintage dish towel, which was very soft and flexible, but it did not hold up well with all the stitching and stretching, so I would not recommend it. Yeah, I would have done that differently if I were to do it again. But I love the way the plants turned out. So I hope you enjoyed that video. It was way noisier than I realized until I started editing it. So I apologize for the unusual quality of that video and the lighting, because I was trying to do it outside because I thought it would be relaxing, until I realized all the noise that was going on. But I definitely wanted to share this project because I did have fun stitching it, and I was so happy to be able to show how you can include dies in your projects. So at some point I'll finish stitching off the border and things like that, but I just wanted to share this video, and I want to thank everyone for watching it, and I hope you enjoyed it. So please check out my website at LyndaCreates, that's Linda with a Y, LyndaCreates.com, to see more interesting projects, and check out my YouTube channel for different tutorial videos, and I will see you in my next video.